Part 5. Living in the Now. Chapter 20. The Past and the Future. We can place ourselves in the now by using the senses. As we discovered in Part 4, the senses can lie. This might have left you in a conundrum of knowing what to trust and who to trust and when to trust, but part of that is to live in uncertainty. Not because life is bad or wrong in that way, but just because life is uncertain and you could get anything, anytime. And it's that window of opportunity which enables you to inject whatever you want into anything at any moment. So it is always important to be there in the moment, and also to be aware of your state of mind and to be open enough to having your mind changed at any moment. Because don't forget, the world is your teacher, so we must be open to that fact, otherwise we will live in our own naivety, and if we are closed-minded at any point to the real facts because we think that we know the facts already, then that closes our minds off to appreciate the real facts when they do come along. And that's why we really need to live in the now. We cannot bear living in the past because past only exists in our minds, in our memories. Because where is the past? We may point to things which have survived from the past and say there is the past, and we may point to an antique chair or an ornate ornament and say there is the past, but there is actually the past presented in the present. We may point to our watch and say there is the past. It is now 7 o'clock and it was 6 o'clock an hour ago. There is the past. But imagine if time didn't exist. Imagine if the world did not rotate and there were no hours and there were no days. Imagine if the world and the sun moved through space in parallel, so there were no years and one side of the earth was perpetual dark and the other side was perpetual light. Days and time would not exist. In reality, days and time do not exist. What does exist is the moment. The past is what we collectively remember from the last moment and the moments before that. The past only exists in our minds and in the things we interpret in the present in our minds which we associate with the past. Some people try to live in the past, but it is impossible in actual fact to live in the past. All you are doing is living in the present, reminiscing. Similarly, we cannot live in the future, because the future also lives on in our minds and our hopes and our dreams. So the moment that has gone 5 minutes ago has now gone, and the moment to come in 5 minutes has yet to arrive, so we are still stuck in the present. We never actually get to see the past because the past has gone, and we never actually get to see the future because the future is now here and it's now in the moment. To a philosopher, the past exists only as a series of moments, remembered or half remembered, in our collective minds. You could even say the past never did exist, because to a philosopher the past is just a series of moment by moment by moment, and we are still living those moments moment by moment. And the future, well, that never existed either, except in people's minds. So the past and the future were never actually present. All we got is the present, followed by the present, and then the present again. Chapter 21. Deciding in the moment. If the past never existed and only exists in our minds, and as we've seen our minds are fallible, and the future never ever existed, it only exists as a concept, as an expectation, and an extension of our hopes and dreams and fears. We never actually get to change the past because the past is gone, and we can only ever change the past in the moment, and we certainly can't change the future because the future never arrives. We can only manipulate a potential future and a possible future in the moment, and that creates another future and an alternative future. So we may as well concentrate on the present. And that even comes down to thinking about what we should eat for our evening meal and what we should do for our late night's entertainment whilst we are in the middle of our daily business duties during the day. Why think about those things when they aren't happening right now and may never happen? Do you concentrate on the traffic on the street when crossing the road, or do you think about having a meal? If you get knocked down in an accident, then that meal may never happen because you no longer exist. Surely it is better to concentrate on the moment and to take care of whatever is happening in the moment for your continued survival. There's certainly no harm in projecting that present into the future by making plans and to organise things so that that potential future becomes something like a reality. Because it only takes a moment to pick up the phone, or to write an email, or to write a letter, and to communicate those thoughts and feelings to anybody situated anywhere around the planet, given no time and no space and no distances between those guys. Email and telephones are instantaneous, so in the moment we can shape our future and we can make plans, as long as I say, we don't expect those plans to work out absolutely perfectly, and at least not every single time, because plans never work out perfectly. Plans are chaos, just like everything else in life, and if they work out, then that's great, and if they work out to a better degree to conform to our expectations, then that's even better, and if they don't, well, then they don't. Often they say nothing ventured, nothing gained, and it is the philosopher's job to prioritise those ventures, to equate what would be gained, and to delay those things which need to be done later, and to do those things which really need to be done right now. The moment is the place to make decisions. If we put decisions off until later, or the next day, or the next month, or the next year, then those things may never come to pass, and we might be saying mañana, mañana, and it never actually happens. I've certainly known people that say that they want to purchase property, for example, and they might spend 10, 15, 20 years looking at the property market and never actually getting around to buying a house, because they say it's never the right time and it's never the right moment. But I say, don't put off tomorrow what can be done today, because tomorrow doesn't exist, and today is the only place and the only point from which you can change or build anything. We may craft things from wood and create things in the moment which lasts into the future, but we can only create those things by getting on with it and making those connections in the first place. If we must do those things, then surely, as we have seen, the sooner we start, the sooner it's over. And the only place from which we can start is in the moment. Similarly with the past, you might argue that the past doesn't exist and never existed, because the past was the moment. But in the moment, right now, you certainly have thoughts and feelings based upon the past, and you have memories of the past in the moment. So if there is anything that you've brought with you from the past, then the only place to fix that up is in the moment. For example, if you've harboured a feud between yourself and another human being, then that feud will continue for as long as one or both of you harbour that grudge. Life will never be the same again until that bridge has been mended. If you decide to mend that bridge, then the only place to do that is in the moment. If you haven't spoken to your mother and father for 10, 15, 20 years over a grudge that happened in the past, then that will be hanging over you and the both of you until one party rings the other or contacts the other and they apologise and say, sorry for anything that I might have said in the past, and I really was a fool and I want to apologise for that, and that will clear up the past and that will optimise the moment, because now you're no longer being pulled back by the past, and the resentments you had about the past, those are now cleared and out into the air, and you are now back in communication with those people. Whether you want to continue that communication or not, it's up to you, but by clearing the past in the moment, you can carry on from moment to moment free of all that care. And as I say, in order to be carefree, you must be free of cares. So if you care considerably about the past and the connections you've made in the past, and the friendships that you made in the past which are affecting the present, then if you are careful and considerate and handle the present situation with tender loving care, then it should be possible to clear out the past, even if it's a feud that has been going on for many years, and to take care of that and create a clean slate. Sometimes we cannot always get in contact with those who may have abused us or harmed us in the past, but we can still make amends by clearing the air and contacting those guys, either by writing a letter and burning it, sending that letter into the air, or destroying that letter by burying the letter, or sending that into a boat and sending that down the river. Then you are pouring your feelings out into that letter and sending those feelings off in the present. We can also choose to send all our feelings to those people and to send the opposite feeling to the one that we had originally for that person. For example, imagine if you were bullied at school by one or more bullies who used to make your life a misery. Obviously, you don't want to hang around those people any longer, and you probably haven't seen those people since. But right now you can open your heart and your mind, and you can pour all your feelings out towards them, and all your pain and all your hatred, and then you can also pour out all your loving forgiveness of those people, having realised that those people were still on their path of learning, and they could be nice guys now. Maybe they are all settled down with a family, but in that moment it felt good to forgive those people and to appreciate the life lesson which they gave you, and to thank them and acknowledge them, but letting go of that fact and moving on. Some of our very worst and most harsh life lessons are actually there to teach us something really valuable, and even severe pain and anger and anguish are there to teach us something valuable. So those people who have delivered that onto our lives, or who you perceive have delivered that onto our lives, can be forgiven, and even the worst depression suffered by mankind can be acknowledged as the greatest gift life could have thrown at you, because having gone through that, that has made you who you are right now, and without that you wouldn't be who you are right now. You might not even be where you are right now if it wasn't for that fact. Maybe now you may appreciate those people and those difficult situations in life for their gift that they have given you, and you can be reassured by that fact, because this alone makes us very special and very unique as individuals, as every individual has to have those life lessons to make them special and unique. Even if those life lessons are going on right now, and you are faced with a bully at work right now, there are still many avenues to try and to do to clear up that past and to clear up the current situation. You could say, I used to be afraid of you, but I'm not afraid of you anymore. I thought you were mean and horrible, and now I just think you are just another human being with their own set of problems, and to forgive them for that. Or you could decide that the best thing to do is to simply apologise to them for bearing all those thoughts and all those judgments about those people, bringing those things in from the past where they have little bearing on the present, and so apologising will instantly clear up the past, and you will then be on a new footing with that person, and you will be able to communicate with that person, and you will not be avoiding them any longer. You will clear up those feelings, and there will be no longer a problem in the present. Imagine if you did that with all the friends and all the family and everybody that you ever bore a grudge against and hated, and brought all that hate into the present, and you really got to grips with all that and cleared out the past and swept the carpet and dusted the rug and washed the windows, and all of a sudden the past, i.e. your mind's interpretation and your memory of the past, is now clear, and the moment is a nice clean house, happy and healthy, and you can now move on from that present moment into the next present moment without all that heat, without all that weight on your shoulders. And as the Beatles said, if you harbour that weight, you will carry that weight for a long time. The length of which you carry that weight is up to you. We are the beginning and the end of our lives and every situation, so it's up to us whether we want to clear up that moment or whether we want to continually drag those on to the next moment and the next moment. Chapter 22. Fighting the Moment. Some things in the past cannot be cleared up. If you were raped in the past, abused, harmed, manipulated, beaten up, or forced to do things that you didn't want to do, then those memories will not be faded away no matter how much you clear up the present, and those memories still will have a bearing on the present. And certainly if you've been raped, then there's nothing you can do or say to the rapist or to anybody in your lives which will take that situation away. But again, if you bring that forward from the past into the present moment, day after day after day, then that situation is actually ruling you rather than you ruling that situation. The situation is forcing you to do things and forcing you to think in certain ways, perhaps making you live in fear. So it's important to distinguish how much of your power you are giving the situation by thinking about it and being reminded about that situation day after day, how much you are talking to other people about that situation and bringing that up, because at least in the early stages it is really helpful if you speak to people that have also gone through that same situation and who really appreciate where you are coming from, not from sympathy but from empathy as well. Or you speak to a professionally trained listener who will listen to those feelings from the past and help you assimilate those feelings and to make better sense of those so they don't cause further harm to you in the present and the next moment and the next moment, then that's certainly a good thing. But if you have done that for many years, maybe 20 or 30 years, travelling from counsellor to counsellor, from course to course, you may become reliant upon those courses and those counsellors and those professionals to help you through your day, and in that case the power of that incident from the past is still having a bearance on your life in the present, and you are still having to talk about the incident, which brings the incident back up and refreshes the whole thing in your mind and other people's minds. And in that situation, the power of that element in your life is dominating your life and controlling your life, and in the moment you hand your power away to the past. We can live in fear of that element, we can live under the thumb of that situation, but you have to consider who is ruling who in that situation. And if the answer is the situation is actually controlling you and making your life a misery, then it might be a good idea to confidently and firmly refuse that situation in the present any longer and simply give up thinking of those elements as a bearing on your life. Sometimes it seems impossible to be clear of a situation and impossible to forget about a situation, but again, the more you fight and struggle and kick up a massive fuss about that situation, the more you are adding weight to that situation and you're giving that situation more credence than it perhaps deserves. Let go by deliberately forgetting about a situation, deliberately not bringing the situation up, deliberately not burdening other people with those ideas, and to just let life flow through you like the wind blowing through a laundry line. Because if you let things go and you let the path of life continue, then at some point in your life, hopefully, there'll be enough water under that bridge for you to appreciate that situation and put the whole thing in some kind of perspective. Maybe you can appreciate that, and certainly appreciating every gift that has ever been given to you is a better way to manage your life than to resent those things and to fight against them, because whatever you fight, you only make stronger. At that point, you have gained the edge over that situation, maybe not mastery, but at least the edge over that situation, enough to realise that you simply do not need that in your life any longer. You can give that up and you can let the rest go. The philosopher knows when to take it easy on themselves and when to give themselves a hard time, when to invent reasons to push themselves forward or when to invent reasons to hang back and observe. It is all about using the moment and going with the moment while the moment is there to do something about it. It is nailing the moment and hitting the moment on the head, rather than fighting against that thing like a punch bag. The moment is our friend. It is very flexible, and in our hands we can create anything from it. It is up to us what we create and what we disregard in the moment. Chapter 23. The Power of the Moment. It is said by some that whatever you can imagine is possible to manifest in the present. That means anything that you can imagine to be possible in your wildest dreams can be made manifest step by step in the moment. No matter what that invention, no matter what that pastime, that trial, that challenge, no matter how professional or trivial. For example, if you don't have a partner right now, then it's certainly possible to take any number of steps right now in the moment to go looking for a partner. If you have a partner but are unsatisfied with that partner, then it is perfectly possible in the moment, no matter how hard it may seem at the time, you can take steps to separate and move away from that partnership. If you don't have a job, then it is possible to take steps to find a job, and if you have a job that you don't particularly enjoy, it is possible, no matter how hard it may seem at the time, it is possible to track down another job. There are ways to gain and acquire anything you desire from life, and there is also ways to take things down and to break things apart if you do not desire things in life. There are easy ways to do those things, and there are harder ways. Your choices in life are in fact wide open, and there are no limits on life except for the limits that you place upon yourself. So if you avoid limiting yourself by saying that things are not possible, then you'll remove those limits from your life. The more you discover that things are possible, the more things become possible, and it becomes a perpetual circle of making things possible and realizing that things are possible. The opposite self-fulfilling circle is when people try to prove that things are not possible, and lo and behold, things turn out to be not possible. As we discovered in previous chapters, everyone lives in their own personal comfort zones and in their own personal view of the world. So what is possible for one may not be possible for someone else. But to a philosopher, that doesn't rule out the fact that anything is still possible, given the fact that those people could change their minds and extra elements could be brought in to make seemingly impossible things possible after all. Because, as we know, we are only limited by our wild fantasy imaginations, and sometimes, if you throw enough time and effort at any project, things seemingly impossible may become manifest. It is never too late to try. So the moment is a very, very, very powerful place to be, and anyone who's read Eckhart Tolle or seen any of the Eckhart Tolle DVDs and seminars will certainly appreciate the fact that the moment is the place to be. In fact, there is no other place except for the moment, and you can accomplish many things depending on how much time and effort you want to put into that, and how much conviction you want to put into that role that you want to create for yourself. One block that many people place upon themselves in the moment is the fear that they haven't got enough money. Now, this fear is an irrational fear, because however much money you have is still more than the next person along the road, and it's certainly not as much as the other person along the road. In fact, you have as much money as you have, so at least you have something, no matter how great or how small that amount of money may be. And even in this day and age of credit cards and credit, there are ways with overdrafts and funds available to secure money from all kinds of different areas to achieve all kinds of different things. Money really is no object unless you see it as an object, and in that instance then it will become the object and it will become reality. To give you some idea of how trivial money can be, imagine if you won a competition one day, and in order to collect your prize of $1 million, you had to get yourself to New York. Unfortunately, the price of the airfare to New York was just a few $1,000s higher than you're expecting, and higher than you can actually afford. In that situation, would you be really concerned about where you found that few $1,000s to get yourself to New York to collect the $1 million prize? Of course not. you would move heaven and earth to get yourself to that New York destination, collect the million, and pay off any debts later. Well, life, to some people, is little like that. If they found that they really needed to do something, then no matter what you have to do to get the money, then the money is available. Of course, that may mean getting into debt and having to pay back interest and pay back loans, but that doesn't mean to say that that money wasn't available in the first place, so you can't say that a lack of money is an excuse for not fulfilling your life. Time is also another block which some people place upon their lives, complaining that they haven't got enough time. Well, time is relative. If you separate enough time in the day to fulfill whatever you need to do in that space, then things become possible. If someone said, would you like to go out of an evening, then you might make time to make that possible. Certainly, if the partner of your dreams walked by and said, can I take you for coffee, you would probably spare the time somehow to make that possible. Having such an attitude of freedom certainly helps make things possible, but if you go around telling everybody you are too busy, you are too busy, you are too busy, then that closes the doors to possibility, and opportunity tends to walk the other way. Some people complain that they don't have enough energy, or they don't have enough motivation to make things possible, or even they don't have enough dreams, and therefore they don't have any dreams to fulfill to make things possible. Well, in that current situation, those people are blocking themselves, basically limiting themselves by having few motivational ideas, and you can't really stir those people into action if they don't want to be stirred into action. But the point of not having enough energy is actually an illusion. Imagine the marathon runner. He starts out on day one running down the road. By the time he comes back, he has no energy whatsoever. By the end of the week, by the time he comes back, he has just a little energy in reserve. By the end of the month, he can run there and back again with plenty of energy in reserve to do the whole thing all over again. You can train your body to hold and withstand things simply by repeating a performance pattern, and your body will grow and adapt to fulfill your needs. Even if you are elderly and you find that your body is degenerating and you simply do not have enough energy, do you reserve all your energy by doing very little in life, or do you maximize your energy by pushing yourself forward and having a good night's rest? You'll find the latter option actually reserves more energy for the following day, whereas the slow sitting on the sofa approach, your body thinks that you don't need to reserve as much energy for the next day and doesn't reserve any energy as a result. Finally, fear is another great block people usually offer up as to why they cannot perform in the moment. Fear helps stop all action in its tracks, because fear, by design, is a fight or flight mechanism. We should tackle that problem head on or run away, and either of those are more tricky if we are very, very scared and we have to make a knee-jerk fast reaction. Fear is a block to be overcome simply because fear, like everything else, is an illusion. The moment is safe, and in the moment you are safe. The only way that you are not safe is if you are being stabbed to death and you are lying somewhere on a deathbed breathing your last. If that is not happening, then you must be still alive and breathing. In that case, the moment is safe enough to inhabit. If fear prevents you from talking to people and communicating and from being yourself, then who comes out the loser? I put it to you that by not interacting and not being yourself in the moment, through fear, you are actually robbing yourself of that interaction experience, and you are robbing yourself of your life. Some fear is good, and apprehension can save us making silly mistakes. Nobody likes to make mistakes because that just wastes time correcting them all over again. So fear can sometimes be helpful to make us aware and wary of things which may be surrounding us off the edge of the table, but which may still have an impact on our lives. But to see those dark shadows as something to be avoided can be an easier way to avoid things which may actually have been very good for us. And avoiding things through fear is certainly an easy way to close doors of opportunity in your life, and you will find those opportunities dry up pretty smartly if you are too afraid to ask. In the courtship dramas of the medieval period, faint heart never won fair lady, and of course if you are prepared to brave that for a fair lady, nothing ventured, nothing gained, then of course sometimes you have to swallow your pride and to stand up and to step forward and to see what happens as a result. The important thing from a philosopher's point of view is to remember the seeds we plant today are the harvest we reap tomorrow. So if we are lazy today, then the body will accommodate that and be lazy tomorrow, and if we are active today, then hopefully the body will accommodate that and help us become more active tomorrow. Whatever we hope to achieve in the future, we must start today, because that will enable tomorrow. If we do not begin today, there will be no enabling of tomorrow, and sometimes pipe dreams stay exactly that. Seize the moment. Let the moment become your friend, and use the moment to make the best of life.